G'day and welcome to episode 1 part 4 of the Masters of the Wild West special. If you haven't seen parts 1 to 3 yet, I do recommend checking them out. But to recap, Masters of the Wild West is a series of special episodes where I make Masters of the Universe customs with a Wild West flavour. We've kicked it all off with our first custom figure, Doc Hodgins, based on my buddy Adam from Go Figure. In part 1, we sculpted the custom head. In part 2, we painted the figure. In part 3, we began making accessories, starting with his flannel vest. In this episode, we're going to be making 2 accessories necessary for any red-blooded gunslinger. We're going to make his hat and his gun. First, we'll start with the hat. Let's get to work. Alright, it's time to make Doc Hodgins a hat. I've got some Sculpting. I've got a resin copy of his head so that I don't knock paint off the figure. Yeah, let's get to work. I'm going to use a couple of tongue depressors so that I can roll this out to a consistent thickness, hopefully. Okay, I've got some circle cutters here. I'll just pick one that looks about the right size for the brim of his hat, and I'll cut out a circle and we'll go from there. I think that'll work. If not, I'll just go the next size up, but I'll start with this one and see how we go. So the centerpiece that I cut out, I'll try and use that for the top of the hat. Then I'll just cut a strip and run it around, join the 2 pieces together. And hopefully I'll be able to try and shape it into something that somewhat resembles a cowboy hat. Yeah, I think that's something I can work with. I'll keep refining it, and I think this might work. Alright, what I think I'm going to do is leave this overnight to firm up a bit. Because I've been working it, it's all very soft, very malleable. From here on out, I want to be able to shape it and actually push on it and try to, put in a bit of detail. So if I let it sit overnight, it should firm up a little bit. That'll make it easier to get the finer details in. Alright, it's the next day. Hopefully this is firmed up a little bit and it should be a bit easier to control. So let's keep going. I'm starting to get the basic shape of it now. Now it's not much to look at yet, but we'll keep on going and tidying it up, and yeah, it looks like we're on the right track. I'm having some trouble where the Sculpey joined together. It keeps splitting on me, so I'll persevere for now, see if I can make this work. Otherwise I'll start again. I just won't cut the hole in the middle. I'll do something else. Anyway, let's keep going. Alright, it's not looking too bad. I don't think I'm going to get it much better. I'll do a bit of sanding after it's all fired in the oven. Yeah, it looks like a cowboy hat, I think. Yeah, I'll go chuck it in the oven and we can go from there. Alright, I've baked the hat and I've given it a coat of primer. Yeah, it's not looking too bad. I was a bit worried that it might crack in the oven because the Sculpey's a bit thin and it's quite fragile. Now we're just going to give it a sand up and try not to break it. I'll also have to sand out the inside a little bit because Sculpey expands when you bake it, and now it doesn't quite fit on his head. So I don't want to go too far because I want it to be a fairly snug fit. But yeah, we'll see how we go. I've got some water so I can wet sand. This helps keep the dust particles down, and it also helps the sandpaper from clogging up. The sandpaper was taking too long there, so it's time to get out the big guns. I do actually have a Dremel, but that's a bit noisy and messy for inside the house, so the little battery drill will do just fine. Right, that looks pretty close. It's still a little bit snug, but I'm going to make it out of some flexible resin, so I want it to be a tight fit, so it'll hopefully help it stay on. So yeah, we'll just carefully sand up the rest now, and then we get to make a mold. Well, I did it. I was just sanding off camera and put a little bit too much pressure on the side, and bang, away it went. This stuff is really brittle. I'm just going to glue it back together and then give it a sand up. It should look alright. It shouldn't stand out too much. I could make a whole new one again, but it took a pretty long time to make this one, so yeah, I'll fix it. Right, that's glued up okay. It'll have a couple of coats of paint on it, so it should blend in alright. That's not looking too bad. I'll go give it another coat of primer, and if I'm happy with the way it looks, then I guess we're ready to make a mold. So while the primer's drying, I thought I'd get started on a gun for Doc Hodgins. Now this is an example of a Motu pistol. I believe it belongs to either Cobra Khan or Zodak, but it's not quite the aesthetic I want. It's a little bit space age. I'd like to find a happy medium between this and the trusty revolver. So I'll start with something that looks like a revolver, and then I'll try to make it look a bit more Masters of the Universe. So I know that in the Masters of the Universe that we know already, they have fancy laser guns and technology, so a revolver doesn't make the most sense, right? Wrong! Thanks to my new headcanon, there's plenty of room for revolvers in the Masters of the Universe. Let me explain.
Well, howdy folks, I'm Immunitor, and I'm here to give you a quick rundown on the state of technology out in the Wild West. See, the lands of Westernos are so hostile and so far from that cradle of civilization we call Eternos, that for the most part, modern technology just hasn't made it here yet. Technology has been introduced in dribs and drabs, but it's incredibly expensive. In fact, most tech in Westernos has been salvaged, scavenged, or downright stolen from the city folk. There is a thriving black market in Westernos for weapons and any technology that might give one gang an edge over another. In fact, these illegal activities have become so prolific that the criminals are generally better equipped than the lawmen who try to take them down. Now, as for the revolver, unlike modern laser weapons here in Eternals, most folk out west still have to carry their ammunition. But while they look similar, these are not Earth's primitive lead bullets. Westernos weapons are still laser weapons, just not as advanced as the rest of Eternia. Instead of lead bullets, they use high-energy capacitors that most folk just call caps. Each cap is a single charge, so if your revolver holds 6 caps, then you've got 6 shots. Are you with me so far? Good. Now, cap charging is big business out in Westernos. You take your caps to a licensed cap charger like yours truly, or to an illegal one if you're that way inclined. But be warned, there's good reason for cap chargers to be regulated. Caps can be extremely volatile, and entire towns have been blown from the face of Eternia. So, choose wisely. I think that just about explains it. Now that you have a little background knowledge, let's get back to the show. Yeehaw!
So yeah, I've got some styrene, some milliput, a cake pop stick. Let's make a revolver. starting to look alright. Obviously there's going to be some refining later on, but for now we'll let that milliput set and come back to it later. Alright, the primer's dried on this. You can still see fairly obvious marks where that crack was, so I'm going to try to fill those in with a bit of the leftover milliput and give it a sand up. Then give it another coat of primer, and yeah, hopefully it hides the crack a bit. Might use the milliput to help tidy up some of these other details as well while I'm at it. May as well. Hopefully after that's all dry we can give it a sand up and another coat of primer, and hopefully this time it looks a bit better. Alright, that's looking about as good as I'm gonna get it, you know, without starting again. So I think I might just give it a light sand and then we'll make a mold. But before I do that, I need to go back to the gun and take care of some of these undercut areas and just give it a bit of a sand and a clean up. At this point, I'm trying not to be too fussy, otherwise I'll just keep chasing my tail forever. That should just about do them. Let's make some molds. Now I've got those prepped. We just need to fill this side of the mold with silicone. Then once it sets, we flip it over, we take all that Sculpey out, and then we fill it with silicone on the other side. Let's get to it. Alright, now it's time to pour the other side of the mold, but first, to make sure that the two sides don't stick together, I'll just wipe the silicone down with some petroleum jelly. I'm actually not going to apply any to the bottom of each mold, that way the bottom will still stay attached and I'll just be able to pull each mold apart. It'll make it easier to stay located. Alright, let's see if I can get these apart without breaking them. Okay, so I've been finding that in recent projects I've been having some success pouring my molds. If I start with the molds peeled out like this and I fill them and I close them as I fill the mold with resin. Obviously I'll need to cut a few vents in the mold to let the air escape, but yeah, we're not going to do anything too fancy here. Hopefully it'll work. Alright, we're ready to mix up some resin. I was going to use a more flexible resin for the hat, but it takes so long to dry and I really want to see how this is going to work out, even if it's not 100% at this point. So I'm going to try this polyurethane resin. The added bonus is that if the hat works out fine, I won't have to paint it because it's going to be white anyway. Alright, let's see how we did. Alright, that's not looking too shabby. A little bit of a bubble there on the front, nothing major though. I think I'm going to count this one as a success. Oh, that is so close. Just one big bubble right there at the top. But other than that, it looks pretty good. Frankly, I'd still use that. It just kind of looks like a bullet hole in the hat. So yeah, this one can just be unique. Right, I made a second hat and it has a much smaller bubble at the back. So yeah, I think I'll go with that one. Once I trim up the flash, I'm going to paint his band red, I think. Also, it's a little bit snug for the head. I think I want to take a little bit of material out of the inside just to make it fit on his head a bit better, so it won't pull off too much paint or anything, you know, going on and off the head. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. Also, on closer inspection of the first gun that I made, turns out the end of the barrel was actually missing from it, so I've had to cast a couple more till I got one that I was happy enough with. I even did an experiment where I added some of this acrylic lacquer to the mix to change the color of the resin. It works okay. It was more of an experiment just to see whether the resin would still go off or not. Obviously the color's not very vibrant, but it does look kind of cool. Yeah, I've got one that I'm mostly happy with. Unfortunately, there is a bubble here, so I'll just cut that away and make it look a bit more intentional. Yeah, it's not too bad. I'll keep trying to adjust things as I go, but I didn't want to waste too much resin chasing little problems. But yeah, this one should do. All right, let's trim up the flash. They were pretty easy to clean up. Cleaned up the other guns while I was going. I do quite like these. That one almost worked. It's just missing the end of the barrel. This one here has these big air bubbles right there at the back of the fins on the side, but I quite like that. Yeah, as far as mishaps go, that one's pretty cool. This one has similar issues along that fin. It just looks like they've rusted away or something like that. So not a complete waste of resin. I'll probably do something with them eventually. The hat's going to stay white. I'm just going to paint the band red. I am going to paint the gun at some point. I'm not exactly sure which way I want to go yet. Whether I just paint it one bright color like the Motu figures tend to be, or do I paint it silver? Do I try to make it look like it's got a wooden handle like a revolver? Yeah. Adam, what do you reckon, mate? The hat's sitting a little bit nicer now. It's a bit lower and it's a little bit harder to fall off. Yeah. Now I just need to paint that band. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad, but I guess the real question is, how's it look on the figure? And there we have it. I think I'm pretty happy with how Doc Hodgins is coming together so far. I put the red gun in his hand to give me an idea of what a coloured weapon is going to look like. Red would make sense. The rest of his colour scheme is red and white, although maybe his weapons should be something that contrasts so they stand out. Let me know what you think in the comments. That's about all the time we have for this episode. In the next one, we'll probably be working on some more soft goods, so tune in for episode 5. Adam, I hope you're happy with Doc Hodgins so far. To everyone else, I hope you've been enjoying the journey. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this episode entertaining. If you did, please leave a like, leave a comment, give the old algorithm a tickle. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon in episode 5.